Hello and welcome to another episode of the Startup Operator Roundup. I'm Roshan
And I'm Gunjan Saha, and together we break down the biggest headlines of India's growing startup ecosystem. If this is the first time you're tuning into our channel, then please consider subscribing to it, for we talk everything startup. And if you're a regular listener, then do like this video, share it with your friends, do all the good stuff. Before jumping into the headlines from last week, I guess there's only one headline which everyone is talking about, which is
India.
Man,
Wow.
what a match
What
that
a
was.
match.
So I think there were two turning points in the game. One was Akshar Patel's batting and the catch by Sky. He took Miller's wicket. Man, that catch was worthy of a final winning moment.
Superb. And if you look at the catch, right, it's going outside of him, and he still judges it perfectly well and does all of those, theatrics on the boundary line, right? So fantastic stuff, man. I don't think you can play any knock that is like more important than that, I feel, right? So this friend of mine, Ashish, had tweeted, just after the win, right, that cricket is like that primary key to the relational database of your life, right? It's complicated, but think about it, right? You have these vivid memories of where you were at specific points in time, right? Like, for example, 2011, Dhoni hitting that six, or, NatWest, for example, right? UV and Kef, right, doing all of that fantastic stuff. I think we chased 300 plus, which was a big deal that time, right? And of course, I think we will remember Surya Kumar Yadav's catch for ages, right? So, a lot of nostalgia it brings back. I would say.
I think this was a long time happening. The previous World Cup also, India was undefeated, but we choked at the last match.
We've had the best Indian squad for about 10 years now that we haven't and it's so sad that we haven't won more trophies and so on. And think about Bumrah, man. What a guy. I think he's like easily the best match winner we've produced. Maybe like one or two notches below Sachin.
I think Zahir Khan by himself is a legend.
Yeah.
But I think Bumrah will soon be
one for
there.
the ages.
Yeah.
One for the ages. I think he's crossed Zahir, if I would say. Yeah.
Oh, that's a claim.
Yeah. We're starting with some scandalous stuff. Not so scandalous, actually.
Not
Come
so
on.
scandalous.
Look at the stats. Yeah. You guys can correct us. Zahir or Bumrah?
Okay, so while you figure that out, here's a quick rundown of everything that went on last week. Micromax Venture released data about their fund's performance. And while this may sound new, it's not the first time. Bloom Ventures earlier in 2013, I guess, released their fund performance as well. We'll be trying to take a look at that. Last week, Figma also hosted Figma Config conference. And, well, there were some really interesting takeaways from it, not only if you are a graphic designer. Zomato launched Restaurants Service Hub. AI is now writing keynote sessions for CEOs. We are seeing tremendous rise of regional content in India, especially in North India. And OYO, which was once valued at $10 billion, has withdrawn its IPO papers and is raising funds at a valuation of $2.5 billion. In South India, Foxconn is accused of discriminatory hiring practices. And we have a roundup of some interesting tweets we came across on X. So stay tuned as we break these things down for you. Now, while it's common for public investment funds to disclose their financial performance, this is not something you see day to day in private companies or VC funds.
Yeah.
But if you look about it, do you think there's much to gain or much to lose if they do it?
Well, it's a positive for the ecosystem, I'll tell you that. Right? It's, as you said, it's very unusual for funds to disclose their performance, especially because so few of them actually return money to their investors, right? India has not been a roaring success VC-wise. We have not had a lot of exits. And so, we're still early in that whole cycle, I would say, right? But this was very refreshing to see for sure, right? And they've had a couple of those successes, Exigo, Truecaller, a few other interesting startups like Healthify Me and so on, right? So, I hope more of them follow. And overall, I think the ecosystem gains from more of this knowledge being, like out there in the public domain, right? People can kind of see things. And the VC business as a whole itself is such a weird one, right? It's like, that very strict Pareto rule where 1 or 2 hit it out of the park, and then like 7, 8 are like really spectacular failures, right? And that's true for most funds, I would say, right? I mean, that's just how the business is structured. And people get it wrong, like horribly wrong all the time, I mean, you can think of Bill Gurley, who got it right more than a few times. He's a legend, right? He invested in Uber, but the same guy invested in Webvan, right?
What's Webvan?
Webvan was a relic of the dot-com era, right? It was kind of like Big Basket, but like a very primitive Big Basket at that time, right? So, in fact, there is this fun Quora Q&A with Bill Gurley, right? I mean, someone asked like, why did someone invest in Webvan in those days? And he has an answer to that. Very interesting stuff. I mean, we'll probably link to it in the description, but yeah, this is, I would say it's a huge net positive for the ecosystem. So again, kudos to the Bloom folks and also the Micromax fund.
Yeah. Well, another highlight of last week was Figma's Config Confidence.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. I think that went much better than some of the other keynotes that we have seen. One of the best announcements that they made is that finally you can design presentations in Figma, right? And not only is it helpful for graphic designers who are the primary users, but now when marketers like yourself can start designing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, I'm really looking forward to like accessing slides, as they call it, right? Figma slides. Look, I mean, so Microsoft PowerPoint has been like that one thing that hasn't ever been done away with for the last 25, 30 years of, office work, right? I mean, it's a constant, and the people have tried. Like there was this startup called Deck, and then, I'm probably missing like 25 other startups that try to disrupt this, right? And Canva, of course, and so on and so forth. But it's just stayed, right? And I think Figma slides could have a real shot, right? Because there's real-time collaboration, there is AI, and yeah, it just looks very, very usable. Right, so I'm actually kicked about using it, and props to Figma, man. I mean, they're a massive company at this point, but if you look at their product presentation and so on, I mean, they're shipping at a ferocious rate, right? And something to really benchmark to, I would say, right? I mean, phenomenal stuff.
No, one thing which I thought was the entire event would go a bit south because of the whole Adobe fiasco. The acquisition did not go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, for a company size of Figma, having these timely updates and major updates, not just another...
Look at that AI stuff as well, right? I mean, you can just like search for, a very specific context, and you have a fantastic first edit to work with, and for people who are like, maybe like 1/4 a designer like me, right? This is fantastic stuff. This is really amazing. So I think Figma is taking it a few notches above the rest, clearly.
Okay. Talking about taking a few notches above the rest, segue.
All right. First segue for the roundup this time.
Anyway, talking about taking it a notch above the rest, Zomato has brought out a solution that should be helping a lot of its restaurant partners. They released what it's called the Restaurant Service Hub. This is a comprehensive platform that aims to streamline various aspects of managing and operating a restaurant, right from scouting suppliers to sourcing and licensing, hiring, and the delivery of quality services. The hub already has assisted over 3,200 restaurants in just 6 months, and Zomato, through this, is emphasizing on inclusivity. This platform is not just for those partners who use Zomato, but for all restaurants across India. And I think that's a very great move.
Yeah, I mean, I think the end game for Zomato is like they'll probably turn everyone into a chef, right? So, I mean, you focus on the food, you cook whatever quantity you want, and then, we will have all of the services enabled so that, you can sell a meal or two, People have tried that before, I mean, and failed, but at Zomato scale, I think they have a real shot. They're already enabling a lot of these restaurants with the POS and with the ERP and the, fresh food supply and so on and so forth, right? I mean, they're doing all of that stuff. I think the service hub is like kind of bringing everything together, like in one sort of a hub, So, yeah, good stuff, man. Amazing.
Okay, so one big question came up on Twitter last week. Will AI be writing future keynote sessions for CEOs? And the case in point here is that of Shopify. At the 2024 Shopify Summit, Toby, who is the CEO, delivered a satisfactory talk. People rated it 7 on 10. But the unique thing about this presentation was that Toby took to AI to create his speech instead of writing it himself. He built a team of AI agents to complete this task. These AI agents had diverse specifications. They worked in a virtual office environment. They met periodically in water coolers and brainstormed and distributed tasks. They also conceived, drafted, researched, wrote, edited, and designed Toby's talk autonomously. So
Phenomenal.
do you think more and more CEOs will be taking this approach?
Dude, what a guy, man, this fellow. I mean, he runs a $100 billion company. I don't know if there's still 100 billion or whatever, but he still codes.
He still codes. He did it on a Saturday night.
Like pretty phenomenal, I'll tell you, like for a CEO of a company that scale, right? But yeah, I mean, it's getting a lot more real, you know. I mean, 7 on 10 is not bad, I would say, right? Yeah, if anything, I mean, it'll save like us poor hapless marketers from coming up with, you know, shitty first drafts of keynotes and presentations and whatnot, right? So yeah, I mean, I hope he kind of open sources this and a bunch of us get to try it out as well.
I guess there'll be AI agents who will be writing content for the podcast.
Yeah, I think we should probably get an AI agent to host the roundup.
Low blow, man. Okay, so we have been seeing a tremendous rise of regional content in the country. Sajid Pai, who is with Bloom Ventures, took to Twitter to congratulate Stage. They have had an increase of 8x subscribers since 2022 when they did the Series A funding. And the revenue has grown around 20 times. If you talk about a hockey stick kind of a growth, I think the chart that you're seeing on the screen, that's what defines it. They also generated more free cash from Haryanvi content in March 2024 than the entire business did as a company in April 2023. I think the next target for them is to pump in more Rajasthani content and make that into a profitable vertical as well.
Yeah. First off, I mean, this is the second piece of Bloom news we're talking about, okay? So after, I think after Blinkit, probably Bloom has made it to the roundup more number of times. So yeah.
Still topping the list would be Byju's.
Byju's, yeah, for infamous reasons. But yeah, in positive light. So I think Bloom folks, if you're listening to this, if you're watching this, we are open to sponsorships. Yeah. Like buy us dinner sometime, you know? But yeah, I mean, this is awesome. We've hosted Vinay on the podcast way back when, I think maybe a year and a half, 2 years back. It was a fantastic conversation on building regional content. And also, Vinay ran a business before this, right? I mean, that got like massively screwed by Facebook and whatnot. And, you know, there's a classic Phoenix kind of a story of rising from the ashes. And they've built like a large business, man. I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. The user numbers, the engagement, and so on and so forth. And again, they're proving that Indians do pay for value, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm really, really wishing the Stage team all the very best. I hope they find many more millions of users and they're able to get many more tens, if not hundreds of millions of rupees and dollars in revenue.
No, also I think the regional content, right, has its own flair. Like after I moved to Bangalore from North India, I really started enjoying some of the Malayalam movies that you recommend.
Yeah, I mean, there might be more than one single Malayali connection here, but let's not, you know, maybe let's not announce.
Let's talk about OYO withdrawing its IPO papers. That's more relevant. OYO was valued at $10 billion in 2019, and recently they clocked its first ever profitable year. Despite that, they withdrew its IPO. And they're currently raising a round at a $2.5 billion valuation, which is down 75%. But that's a very surprising thing for a company, right? You turn profitable, yet you cut down valuations and withdraw IPO papers.
Yeah, the markets have changed, right? Look, we've been talking about this and it's kind of an ongoing theme as well, right? The markets are not what they were in 2021. They're not even at the 2020, 2019 levels, right before the pandemic. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough raising at those valuations for sure, right? But you know, props to OYO again. You know, their counterpart Airbnb has done reasonably well in the US, right? They're still valued at about, I don't know, $90-100 billion. right? And they're growing reasonably well. I mean, they're generating some $1 billion in free cash flow, right? So there is a precedence to running a good profitable business at scale for OYO, right? That they can kind of like benchmark to and also like sort of showcase to investors that, you know, there is some precedence for that. So yeah, but I think they've probably withdrawn it to stay private for a longer time and wait for maybe like a favorable time to get to the public markets, right? But I don't know. It's a
Ixigo, right?
yeah, it's a weird thing, you know, because you know, we've also made the point that the retail investors are starved for something tech, right? And OYO is travel tech, right? So I don't know what.
But OYO also, I mean, back in 2015, 16, like OYO was if you're traveling to a new city, you have to book an OYO, right? But then I think the entire meaning of OYO changed. But
thanks to the likes of Gunjan and his friends.
Come on.
But yeah, did you see that ad, the new OYO ad?
No.
Yeah, made by this friend of mine, Devaya.
Devaya makes a lot of ads.
Yeah,
Cool
but
ads.
this OYO ad, it hits at the same thing that you sort of purported to.
Well, Indians jugaad maar lete hain.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it won't be too far off. I mean, I think it's probably coming up in the next 2 to 4 years, I suppose, right? The OYO IPO. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. But if you want to understand more about, you know, what's going on with OYO, would definitely recommend checking out an article by FinShots. They really did a brilliant piece on it. Closer to South India, Foxconn is under the lens for alleged discriminatory hiring practices. There are some media reports that suggest Foxconn is not allowing married women to work at its latest Apple iPhone plant in Sri Perumbudur, Tamil Nadu. The Union Ministry of Labour and Employment has sought a detailed report from the Tamil Nadu Labour Department. And although we do have a lot of laws safeguarding these interests, it's very rarely that we see them enforced.
No, they're enforced. They're obviously enforced, and there's a lot of babudam there. And as you mentioned, there's just a ton of laws and regulation and so on and so forth, including some really silly things in terms of, you know, how your canteen should be, how many cupboards and doors it should have, and so on and so forth. Right? It's crazy. So right after the farm reforms, I think the government had mooted bringing labor reforms, right, making it easy for people to hire and fire folks and so on and so forth. But it's tough in India, right? I mean, in India, I mean, any of these plants and whatnot are heavily unionized, and all of these unions are pretty much politicized as well, right? I mean, they're captured by the local political parties and so on. So it's hard, but yeah, if there is any kind of discriminatory practice, that is absolutely bad. Yeah, we should definitely reject those, and I hope Foxconn does better.
Well, Foxconn is also one of the, you know, poster childs of that manufacturing and supply chains are shifting to India.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to impact?
No, I think they'll be used to this kind of stuff in plenty of places. I'm sure there's something of this sort happening in Mexico and like wherever else they operate, right? I'm sure. So yeah, I mean, it's nothing too serious, I would say.
Before we talk about some of the interesting tweets we came across, here is a quick roundup of the notable fundraisers from the week. A total of 9 startups raised $150 million in growth stage deals, and leading the list was Upgrad that raised $35 million in debt funding. Rocket Lane raised $24 million, SmartWorks $20.24 million, Rare Rabbit $18 million, and Rupeek that raised $15 million. In the early stage side of things, 15 startups raised around $60 million, and that included the likes of Ziod, Cloud Physician, Sid's Farm, Two Brothers Organic, Morphing Machines, among others. These were the notable ones. Anything stand out for you?
Yeah, pretty interesting, I should say. And Rocket Lane had a very nice video announcing their, fundraise. I mean, they seem to get better each time they raise a round. Props to Shri and team. The marketing folks are pretty awesome as well. And they're raising this round at a time when there's all this doom and gloom about SaaS, right, and market downturn and whatnot. So good on them. I mean, they've built a fantastic like customer onboarding experience platform and targeting professional services folks. And Mr. Anirudh, who's sitting here, has been chased relentlessly by the HR team at Rocket Lane. Hopefully, I mean, after this fundraise, he will reconsider joining them. So So yeah, fantastic stuff. And we hosted Dossery founder on the podcast as well, way back when. I mean, this is 2.5 years back, I think you should track how many of the founders we hosted have raised like a follow-on round, right? There's some scope there.
As soon as the fundraise announcement comes through.
Yeah. Literally nobody has given us anything. Think about it. The Flipkart ESOP guys, the WakeFit guys, none of them, man. I mean, seriously, our subscribers.
Wonder why.
Really, we need to level up on our subscribers. Really. Guys, throw us some crumbs. Come on. I mean, we're open to sponsorships. Did I mention that already?
So last week on Twitter, we came across this very interesting video by Chamath giving some A+ career advice. Take a look at it.
Fantastic advice.
You've also had multiple chapters in your career, right?
Yeah, all of us have, right? I mean, I think I've lived my life in 4-year intervals, I would say, right? I mean, barely made it through college for 4 years. And then, Startup 1 for 4 years, and then Startup 2 for about four-ish years, and so on, right? The third stint has been longer than that, almost twice the 4-year mark. But it's useful to recognize that, and it's also useful to not get pigeonholed into one thing, right? I mean, you are this or you are that or something else, right? All of us, if we live long enough, right, we're going to have a second, third, fourth, fifth career, right? And so we really have to embrace the fact that we're going to be many things. It's not going to be like your parents' generation that you study to be an accountant, you work to be an accountant, and you retired as an accountant, right? Yeah. So very
Always
sound
keep
advice.
Reinventing yourself.
Yeah. Embrace change.
Okay, another video that we came across was by the founder of Perplexity, Arvind Srinivas. He explains user is never wrong philosophy of Larry Page. Take a look at it. That sums up accurately.
Awesome. I mean, see, there's this age-old philosophy that the customer is always right, and that's absolutely true, right? Business building is not an intellectual exercise, right? It's as simple as finding out what the user or customer wants and giving it to them in the most easiest, simplest, and most effective, efficient way, right? In a way that you can make a buck, right? That's about as simple a framing of this as possible. Of course, I mean, it's another matter that simple is not easy, right? And that's insanely hard to do. But this is exactly right. So often when I talk to, product folks and so on and so forth, a significant number of them feel like, okay, the user should do better, the user should, behave differently and so on. But the really amazing ones just build everything around the user, right? I mean, they don't question the user because it's not ours to question, so to speak, right? So, yeah, fantastic advice.
To also look at the amount of time it took for Google to reach that state where it could autocomplete search queries or understand the context of a search.
See, and this whole autocomplete as well, right? You bring up a good point. I mean, it's not necessary for Google to optimize and shave microseconds and milliseconds of search, right? I mean, surely, we can wait longer. But that's an eternal quest for Google, right? To shave off those milliseconds and microseconds and get better and get more accurate and so on, right? So, again, fantastic. The heart of Google, right, was peak innovation, which is why, I feel kind of bad that, we dunk on them so many times now.
Well, careful, they might just take us out of the podcast platform.
Google Podcasts is no longer available, by the way.
Yeah, they moved it to YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, right? Yeah.
All right, folks, thanks for staying with us right till the end. Do let us know in the comments what you thought of some of the topics that we discussed. We'll be back again with more exciting updates next week. Till then, like this video, share it with your friends and family, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back again with more news next week. Take care. Have a great week ahead.
Bye, guys. See ya.